deaths in the unreformed prison system, actions taken against journalists, and persistent incidents as well of mob violence, including attacks on minorities. In terms of recommendations, the report contains a very comprehensive set of recommendations on institutional reform, law reform. One key recommendation is to take urgent measures to establish a victim and witness protection program that is independent
they won't face some reprisal. Secondly, that the process must be credible, fair, must meet the international standards of fair trial. And thirdly, as you rightly said, the issue of the death penalty is a problem for us. We oppose the death penalty in all circumstances, and as a UN policy, we're constrained from cooperating with processes, with trials that can result in the death penalty. So this is a constraint. The interim government is aware of that. We hope that this whole process will lead to some reflection, debate, reconsideration of the death penalty in Bangladesh, which we think is actually a part of this cycle of revenge. And root causes, look, so many issues identified in the report. I mean, of course, the protests themselves came out of this student protest over the reintroduction of a quota system of employment for government jobs that favoured families and descendants of the ruling party. But it reflected much broader grievances that had become very pent up in the society over a long time. And I think these relate back to some of the things I said about the nature of politics, the high levels of corruption at high level, but also at a day-to-day level, the lack of opportunity, of employment, jobs. This is a country that's moving towards middle income. You have a fantastic young generation coming through universities with all sorts of new skills, and without necessarily the opportunities for employment. The suffocation of a lot of small, medium enterprise by this whole oligarchic approach to the economy, and also I think the fact that these restrictive laws, the controls on social media, the suppression of independent journalism, all of this had built up really, I think, to a point of explosion. I think when we visited Bangladesh, even in 2022 with the former High Commissioner Michelle Bachelet, you could feel this tension building in the society. Of course, the elections in January of 2024 were very polarised and took place in an environment of suppression. And so I think all of these ingredients really were the fuel to which the student protest sort of ignited. And I think this is signified as well in how, after the 17th, 18th of July, the protest broadened from the students to a much more mass movement that was reflective really of all sectors of the society and all of the different socioeconomic groups. In terms of weapons, I mean, we have quite a bit of information in the report, and I encourage you to look at it closely. And High Commissioner gave you a few of the statistics there, which were striking. 78% of the fatalities were caused by firing, and of that, 66% were caused by military rifles, and 12% by shotguns with pellets. So that's about, close to 80%. And the things we find, you'll see in the research, is not only the weapons that were used, but how they were used. So this pattern of, for instance, firing obviously indiscriminately into crowds, but also firing above the torso, and often at angles that were designed to hit the protesters rather than to disperse the protesters. And of course, as Ravina mentioned, I mean, there's some horrible examples as well of protesters or bystanders being killed, at very, very short range with very high-powered weapons. So I think you will see there, this prevalence use of military grade weaponry was a key factor in the high level of fatalities that were recorded.
Ravina, something
I'll just add to that. The question on root causes was, of course, very important, a key question. And in fact, this was part of what the interim government mandated our office to look into specifically on the root causes that led to these terrible incidents in July and August. The report is very long and detailed. It contains a lot of rich, in-depth information about this. And if you go to page 69, you'll see, that the root causes set out in a very systematic manner. And what you will find is, of course, that the root causes run deep. So the reform that needs to take place will also need to be profound.
Thank you. We've got two more questions online, and then we're nearly hit the hour mark on the press conference. So I think these will be our final two questions. So we'll start with Mustaf Fizir, followed by Takuya. Mustaf Fizir. I see you're still muted.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Mustafiz from New Age. I'd like to know how could the UN system help Bangladesh government, at present the interim government, to bring back those who held key positions during the July massacre, including the Prime Minister, and many of them at the time fled to other countries and taking shelter there, including India. How could the UN system help Bangladesh to bring back those? And do you think UN position on death sentence could stand as a barrier to getting your support in the trial process or investigation process? Thank you.
And a question from Takuya.
Hi, could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you for taking my question. And I'm sorry, I was not allowed to get access to Zoom at the beginning, so someone might have asked already, but I know regarding former Prime Minister herself, are you going to ask India about her whereabouts? Because she reportedly, went to India first. So are you going to ask India? And do you think you have to interview with her, or just it's out of scope? Thank you.
Thank you, Takuya. There's a similar question. I'll just share one more question online, is concerning what they say, the trial process of Sheikh Hasina. How will it proceed? And the question, similar to what Takuya is asking, is why is India not handing over to Bangladesh? The interim government says that a formal request has been made to bring her back. Is there any opportunities for the UN to play a role in this matter? Rory?
Thank you for the two questions. I mean, I think kind of relate together to this question of Sheikh Hasina and her extradition. Look, the bottom line is that all those responsible for what happened and what amount to very serious human rights violations and possibly international crimes are held accountable. And the report shows that there are different avenues through which justice can be pursued, both in Bangladesh and internationally. the issue of extradition is really a bilateral process, but we hope that states will cooperate and support each other towards this goal of accountability, whether that's India or other states where people may take refuge. There are other ways that states can cooperate and support Bangladesh as well. For instance, investigating corruption and tracing, assets and ill-gotten or stolen funds. So, the important thing is cooperation first, and secondly, that any extradition or trial process respects due process and international standards of fair trial. The specific point of the death penalty was raised. Yes, for the UN, it is a constraint for us to cooperate in proceedings that can result in the death penalty. But not just for the United Nations. I think for many member states have this concern, and it would be a factor that they would, also have to weigh in relation to their support to the process or the question of extradition. So I think this is really, needs to be seen in this broad principle, really, that accountability must move forward, and states have to find ways to work together to achieve that.
Okay, I think that will draw the press conference to an end here. I see there are some more questions both in the chat room and online. Feel free to reach out to our office. We've got Ravina here and Rory who can assist you if you send us an email. Just also to let you know, the report is online, as is the press release, so you can get information from that. There is also an infographic which you will find, I'm sure, very useful, and we will be sending out broadcast quality video as well. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Have a pleasant day.